first things that I see are missing most often is, are you eating consistently? Are you eating real food? And are you eating enough? And almost always the answer to one or three of those questions is no when you're having hormone issues. And there's a huge link between stress hormones being imbalanced, overrun, lots of stress in your life, whether that's emotional, physical, chemical stress, and having hormone imbalances. And there's a reason for that, because your brain has a system that it works with your adrenal glands. It's called the HPA axis, the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal axis. It's essentially just how your brain is communicating with your adrenal glands. And that is what helps your body know whether you are safe or not safe, whether it needs to pump out more stress hormones or less. So that is being triggered every single day with every single decision you make. It's constantly on alert, essentially. And not in a bad way necessarily, but it can be in a bad way if you're constantly on alert and you're constantly triggered. Your adrenal glands are overworked, essentially. And in our modern culture where we have so much like go, go, go mentality, so much stress, that can really be a huge issue essentially for women's health, because when we have all of this stress, our bodies are being given the signal, our brains are being given the signal that things are not safe. And so you can be getting that signal from not eating breakfast consistently and your blood sugar crashing every single morning, mid-morning. All of those things are causing your adrenal glands to need to pump out more cortisol. And the way that your body makes sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone, is very closely tied. I would almost call these like sister systems. They're like right next to each other. They're BFFs. So they affect each other in a really big way. So your system to make hormones is your hypothalamus, pituitary, gonadal axis, which is connected to your ovaries in women. And so when your HPA axis for stress is like high alert, red alert, things are crazy, the sister of that is going to be like, let me help you. When things are crazy, we don't need to be having a baby. We don't need to be focusing on fertility. We need to slow things down, shut things down if needed. And I will even give you back some of the progesterone that I made to make more stress hormones if we're really in that bad of shape. So you can see that having not enough food, not consistency with food, that is going to trigger like low blood sugar, which is truly an emergency in your body. Sugar in your cells, glucose in your cells for every single function. But to keep your brain alive, to keep your heart alive, to keep your muscles moving, you have to have enough glucose that is able to be transferred in your cells and that it's monitored in the blood. So even if you're just having blood sugar drops a couple times a day, that's a huge trigger for your stress system, and it will trigger and say, emergency alert, you don't have enough sugar to live right now. So that's going to spike your cortisol. Your body's going to save you, go into overdrive and produce more sugar so that you can live a little bit longer. And the other piece of that is that the liver is involved. And so if the liver is constantly having to save your life and give you enough sugar to keep going because you're not eating enough or the right foods or consistently, then it's not going to be detoxing hormones as well either. So this is where it gets tricky, but also simple. When we look at, we need to make sure that you're getting the ingredients you need. And that can be on a really basic level, getting, carbs and proteins balanced with your meals, getting consistent meals, eating enough food, eating in a way where your body is able to receive the signal that like, it's okay to slow down and digest my food. The testing that I personally do is Dutch testing. It is not the only good hormone testing, but it's the one that I like the most. And there's multiple different ways you can test hormones. You can test hormones in the blood. That can be helpful. You can test hormones in the urine. That's what I do. And you can also test hormones in the saliva. I have found that most doctors' offices, like OB doctors, they're going to do a blood test. That's kind of like the gold standard in traditional medicine. And that can be helpful information. I like urine testing because it can give us the same numbers as far as like what's going on, like how much estrogen do you have at this part of your cycle? How much progesterone do you have? How much testosterone do you have? And then it also adds on a full adrenal panel, which is typically not happening when you're just getting your estrogen and progesterone tested in blood. And because it's in your urine, we can see the metabolites and how your body is breaking down these hormones, which is, in my opinion, one of the most helpful things we see on this test is not only like, okay, yes, you do have estrogen dominance or whatever we're seeing, but then like, but what's your body doing with the estrogen you do have? I find that that's very valuable information, and we don't get that from blood testing or saliva testing. So that's why I like the Dutch test, as well as ease of access. We send it to your house. You pee on some strips on the right day of your cycle, and then you mail it back in. Testing will not fix your hormones. It will just be a tool in the journey. And if we have clarity like, oh, you really aren't detoxing well, we can focus on that more.